Hey, this is Joel Oney at the J Money Studio in the heart of the Buckeye State. And I want to personally welcome you to today's episode of the Steel Kings podcast with my good friends Jared Ledford and Eric Olson, better known to you as the Steel Kings. Be sure to check out jmoneyllc.com for financing solutions for your buildings. And now, let's get back to the Steel Kings podcast.
Hey guys, what's up? This is Jared, and this is the Steel Kings podcast, coming at you with another new episode, and wanted to let you guys know right out front, the good folks at J Money will help you out with your building needs as far as financing. If you're a shed dealer, a metal building manufacturer, if you're an independent contractor working on home improvement projects, check out the team over at J Money. Our friends Joel, Katie, and the whole team over there are happy to assist you with all of your financing needs. We have a very, very, very special guest today on the Steel Kings podcast. I am super excited, and this guy, you're going to recognize him right out of the rip, but I'm not going to waste too much more time. We're going to bring him into the studio, the podfather of the Shed Geek Podcast Network, my friend Shannon, the Shed Geek. How are you today, brother Shannon?
Man, doing good. Appreciate the hype. I like the energy. I like the music. I like StreamYard. I love what you guys are doing with the visual. For those who don't tune in to the visual aspect of the show, it's really cool. Lots of neat stuff going on the screen, kind of making me envious over here in my Buzzsprout world. But that and Zoom has served us well. But I got to look at StreamYard, man. It looks, you guys are making it look cool. The Podfather, I like it. I had a buddy who called me he said you're like the Joe Rogan of sheds.
Yeah, man. Yeah. You're making us, you're making us kind of your co-pilots on this journey with the Shed Geek Podcast Network. We were honored to be featured. You guys have heard us talk to the guys over at Sheds Direct on a previous episode. We were featured as their podcast of the month for the month of May. So if there's any Sheds Direct dealers listening and checking us out, we appreciate you guys for sure. Shannon was telling you guys we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on pretty much every one of your podcasting platforms. So if you're checking us out on YouTube, check us out in audio format. We've also got a plain community dial-in version. We send out a newsletter, so check out shedgeek.com to sign up for the newsletter and get all of your notifications from the team at shedgeek.com. Shannon, brother, you are here on a mission today, and I am super excited. We're starting a little bit of a journey in Facebook. And, for those of you who don't know Shannon, I'm going to give him the floor for a minute or two here just to give you a background on himself. Tell us a little bit more about you, brother, and what you're up to.
Yeah, so in short, man, is just, the best way I know how to explain it is, walking this journey has been so unique. It's I keep saying I need to write a book about this at some point because truth is stranger than fiction, honestly. And I think, Shed Geek, the Shed Geek brand, all the affiliates and partnerships and things that's come along the way, has really surprised me in a way that, like, if you give 100% of yourself to something, like it returns. You know what I mean? Like, it returns. Like, there's no way that you can't go out and pour yourself into an industry, into people, and then like see the fruits of that labor. And that's kind of what's happened with Shed Geek, and how that connection has even happened with you and Eric and just so many others along this journey. It's really just pouring yourself into something completely. And I did that with Sheds, and along the way in that journey, all of a sudden I found Sheds is like the common denominator, but there's so many other things that exist whenever you say, like, I'm a shed dealer, or shed manufacturer. I started my journey in purchasing as a procurement coordinator, and I was trying to save money and order material and learn about all the different aspects of it. And went into sales, end up in sales management, had a couple of trucks and lots, and then kind of started realizing, like, wait a minute, like, not my area of expertise necessarily. So it was like the marketing world, the advertising world, the building relationships. And this, like, honestly, man, it was like, hey, why not start a podcast? I'm listening to podcasts, listening to all these people talk. And I'm like,
Yep.
people are constantly asking for more resources. I want more resources, want more knowledge, want more information. And, so that's what we did. And then it's took off on this other whole journey of marketing and rentals and financing and e-commerce and partnerships with 3D configurators and other podcasts and other networks and yeah, so it's God's been good, man. It's just been like this really unique interesting industry that has landed me in some really cool positions. And yeah, I'm thankful for it. At the end of the day, I'm super thankful for the listeners.
Yeah, one of the things that we talked about this past week, we talk probably at least 2 or 3 times a month offline, and we get into these zones where we get in these long, really long conversations. And one of the things we talked about this week was creating content that we'd want to listen to, right?
Mm-hmm.
It isn't necessarily for everybody. So, if you're listening to us and you don't like what we have to say, we're the first ones to tell you, check somebody else out. But give us a shot. We're encouraging you to do better with your business. I know a lot of the stuff that we do, feels canned and, kind of, coachy and all that kind of stuff. But, Shannon and I were talking about it a little bit. That's what we want to do. We want to motivate you guys. For me personally, I have been on a single shed lot with 15 buildings and been struggling to find a way to do business, been struggling to find a way through Facebook Marketplace or through even back then, I wasn't even doing any SEO or anything like that. I mean, this was a one-man show at a lot. Eric was the same way. We were just slinging sheds, trying to figure out a way to make $1 for the next day to sling more sheds. And, I know there's a lot of you out there that are like that are listening to the podcast and checking us out. We are an open book. Shannon and I both, Eric as well. I've been putting my new Steel Kings email address out here for you guys. Drop me an email. I am an open book. Shannon is too. I think your info at shedgeek.com. For anybody that's wanting to find out more about the business and find out more about sheds and steel buildings, that's really what we're here for. We want to be an open book. We want topics. We want questions. If you guys have anything you want us to talk about, I am more than open to, having a question and answer type of thing. Like ask the Shed Geek anything or ask the Steel Kings anything. If you guys have questions, we want to answer them. We want to be an open book. The reason why we're here today is Shannon started a new Facebook group. And for those of you who are part of the Shed Sales Professionals Facebook group, if you guys are selling steel buildings, the Steel Structures Sales Professionals page on Facebook, check that out. That is Steel Structures Sales Professionals. Shannon and I are moderators in that group. Just another avenue for us to communicate with each other, maybe bounce ideas off of one another. Again, open book. There are plenty of buildings to be sold, both metal and wood. We've got pole barn and post frame guys out there too. We just want to open up the floodgates and really create a community of people that can communicate with one another, work together on projects. I might not be able to do something that somebody else can do and vice versa. And if there's a way that we can work together and make everybody's business harmonious, we want to do that. Shannon, why did you start the page? What was your why behind it?
Yeah, man. So I had that page. It was kind of sitting dormant from a different avenue. So there was about 1,500 people already in that private group. And as you guys know, Facebook kind of opens up the algorithm for private groups. They kind of participate and want others to participate in that. There's no, you're typically not getting sold anything there. It's not like a Facebook page where it's kind of like a pay to play where they want you actually in the Meta Business Suite and things like that. So I thought, well, education is really kind of like near and dear to my heart. I really feel like education is the thing that drives us all forward. It's the thing that we're missing. Forgive me, I'm getting over a cold here. So my thoughts are, iron sharpens iron. The most read book of all times, the Bible. The second most read book is Man's Search for Meaning. Like people are always seeking education. I always want to learn more. And
Yeah.
when you put yourself out there and you're vulnerable, to put yourself out there on a podcast, to put yourself out there in a magazine article, to put yourself out there as a speaker at an event, even creating a private group page and like trying to like harvest some rules to like create content. You're doing most of these things you're doing for free. Most of these things you're doing because you're passionate about it. And then like you're vulnerable because like you're showing your cards, you're putting yourself out there. And what I've found is, you get like a 90% participation rate between the people who really want to do more, learn more, be better, increase the value of the industry, make it a more cohesive industry, learn how to be collaborators and competitors in a respectful way, and change the mindset of like the dog eat dog business world constantly that exists. Having some of that hunger, but not having it so much so that it, you lose who you are. And basically it's like, hey, let's create some content. Let's put something out there. Let's have conversation. Like I encourage people to go to the steel structures sales professionals to learn more about that. Have good, healthy debate. Call things out when necessary in a professional manner, but give more than you take away from it, right? So like, and that's the idea too with a podcast or with anything that we're doing. So like, I encourage people to go on there and have conversation, but sometimes you got to bring awareness. You got to bring awareness, or you got to stay top of mind. And awareness is, it exists. It's there now. Maybe you didn't know it was there. Maybe to hit your page at some point, but you can go seek it out. Put a few things in there. We want to make sure we keep that limited to steel sales professionals. We don't just want random people coming in, because why would they want to be there? To learn about how to sell steel structures. That's not the target we're going for. We're going for the B2B market and getting people to just kind of have conversation. Trust me, there's plenty of conversation that happens around steel structures and the sales of steel structures. So why not get it on there where we can have a conversation that helps everybody?
Today, we have something truly groundbreaking to discuss. The Zula from Mobino Solar Solutions. This incredible shed ventilation system is set to redefine how we approach air circulation and energy efficiency. A shed ventilation marvel. With 3 robust fans generating 630 CFM, 2 fans usher in a breath of fresh air, while 1 strategically expels staleness. What's groundbreaking? It's solar powered. Harnessing the sun's energy, the Zula is a sustainable dream eliminating electricity cost. Sleek, powerful, and eco-friendly, this system is a game changer for those seeking efficient air circulation without compromising on green values. Visit Mobino's site for more of this innovative solar shed ventilation solution and use the Shed Geek 10 for an extra 10% discount. Just visit www.mobinosolarsolutions.com.
Yeah, I think it's good to forum. I'm a big Reddit reader. I really love Reddit. I think I go there for just about any major question I have. I try to seek out somebody else who's dealt with the same problems that I've dealt with, or the same whatever I'm looking to do, whether it be, install a door at my house or upload a YouTube video or put together information for this podcast. It really comes down to a situation where content that we can provide to each other is very valuable. It's innately valuable, right? It's one of those things where if I don't know and somebody can teach me, then I'm that much more dangerous going forward. And, one of the things that you and I have talked about at length, right, Shannon, is the sink to the bottom,
Mm-hmm.
that lower level that is kind of metal building sales. I remember when I was telling some of my closest friends about my decision to go into metal buildings and sheds, they thought I was crazy. They just thought I was crazy. And what we've done here, at Dayton Barns over the last 5-6 years is we've gone from a group of independent contractors to W-2. You guys have heard me talk about this. I'm passionate about it. I think if you pay people to do a job and you train them well, they will do it at the best of their ability. And if they can't, unfortunately, not everybody can sell a steel building online. But if you do it and you do it well, chances are you're going to be somewhat successful at it. I want to get your opinion on that, Shannon. We talked about that offline coming into today's conversation, the 1099 versus W-2. What's your, where are you at currently on that?
Yeah, I want to touch. I want to talk about that. I want to touch on. You said Reddit, dude. Google just purchased Reddit. For the purpose of like wanting to have good, authentic, content that's not just AI generated. So what an interesting, situation there where you're seeking information, and it's funny that people are seeking information from actual people. That's why we go to YouTube. It's why we go to Google. It's why Google has become commonplace in our in our conversation. It wasn't even originally a Google, like Google's like a million zeros or whatever. It was called Backrub, and why was it called Backrub? Because the backlinks. There's so many interesting things, to learn as you dive into the tech world and things like that. But to answer your question on, the 1099 aspect is something that we run into in the shed side and the steel side all the time, because a lot of times a shed manufacturer will have, a consignment model that's not really a floor plan model like you see in the car industry. And it feels like, we kind of follow suit. We're always 10 years behind the car industry, right? On what they're doing. And so the question becomes, are you selling steel only? Are you selling sheds? Are you selling other products as well? But those two come up and complement each other almost as cousins, right? Steel, sheds, steel, and they're both, they're both solving a need. They're typically exist for the purpose of covering something or storing something. So storage for access or for excess, rather, content that we just happen to acquire. The American dream, right? Buy more, find a place to store.
No doubt.
But why 1099? And it's such a big conversation. It could probably be a podcast all on its own. Is I think the manufacturer just has to kind of like determine like what is their why? What is their mission, vision, values? What's their value proposition? Why are they getting into building steel buildings? And if they are going to build these steel buildings, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to do this McDonald's franchise model where they go out and own property and set up these locations? Because the one thing that's interesting to me about steel versus sheds is the amount of inventory that is on the ground for sheds. The prefab aspect to sheds. You can build on site. You can build new construction buildings. But there's a massive amount of prefab buildings that exist for inventory purposes. And with steel, you don't really see that. You see them sell off display models. And because of that, typically what happens is they're looking for someone with a half acre of ground that owns a body shop. And they're like, hey, we set up a couple of buildings out here. Do you want to sell them? And people are like, what's it cost me? Well, it doesn't cost you anything. What if I don't sell anything? Also doesn't really cost you anything, ironically. No floor plan, do what you can. And some people just grasp that concept and either run with it or do nothing. In other words, if you've got a steel building manufacturer's got 1,000 locations that they're selling from, they may have 100 active, and they may have 900 locations out there that just have an owed building that's slowly falling apart over time, that no one's really putting any commitment into selling. But then you've got those performers, those top 100, and then of those top 100, you might have 10 like dynamite, salespeople or whatever, and they're just taking the bull by the horns and saying, I see where this can do well. And I've seen car guys do so well that they say, I'm getting out of the car industry. I can sell this product better. I can sell this line, better. So I guess what I'm saying is it really depends on the manufacturer and their mindset, their mentality. But as far as the dealer, you're an independent contractor. You are an independent 1099 contractor, which means, you have the ability to sell what you want, do what you want, be in control of your brand.
Yeah.
As opposed to so the W-2 side is like, would you do better investing into those 100 productive? These are the questions that come to mind for me. Would you do better, dedicating yourself to the 100 dealers that are dedicated to selling your product, and not worry about the 900? But sometimes maybe it's aesthetics. It looks better. It's optics, maybe rather than aesthetics. And it's easy to say, well, we're in 1,000 different places, but if they don't have, professional sales training or whatever, they're thumbing their way through it. And you said it, you said it a shed lot before with 15 sheds. You're trying to figure out Facebook. You're trying to figure out, okay, what does it look like if I, double top plate, single top plate, 16 OC, you're doing the same thing in metal, right? You're trying to figure out like, okay, what is a hat channel? What does that mean exactly? What is this? You know what I mean? Like, why is 12 gauge better than 14 gauge? That doesn't make sense. Aren't we going down? And it's, there's so much product knowledge that you have to consume outside of even your sales knowledge. So it's just also interesting to me.
Yeah. Yeah, buddy. I can't agree with you more than I do when it comes to things like the 1099 versus W-2 thing. I think what I really struggle with, exactly what you said. And I've been, I think probably a dozen manufacturing houses, over the last 2 years, all across the United States. And I hear the same things from manufacturers. And I'm always asking, what am I going to have to do from a dealer perspective to be like in your top 10? And if you have 1,000 dealers, what's your top, where's your gross coming from? And almost always it's 10% is the top, 10% does 90% basically. So the top 10% does 90% of the sales. And I think what you end up with over time, at least from our perspective, we're in a pretty competitive market. We're not, we're not we're not in Mount Airy, right? I mean, most people that are really competitive in the industry are down in Mount Airy, North Carolina. For those of you that don't know, that's kind of like the heartland for metal buildings. Tons of manufacturers, tons of dealers. It really gets happening down in Mount Airy. But here in Ohio, we're in a pretty competitive market. We've got several manufacturers within a couple hours of us. We've got probably a dozen or more dealers within a couple hours of our location here in Urbana. And what I find more often than not is, I want to do a process a sort of way from top to bottom. I want to advertise a sort of way. I want to market a sort of way. I want to get customers a sort of way. I mean, every single process, how we do our builds, how we design them, the 3D designs that we do. But what you end up finding is not everybody is maybe as professional as they might need to be. And what you end up with is this kind of muddying of the waters where it hurts everybody. And I cannot stress that enough. If you're doing it, if you're a single man show and you're successful, I applaud you. That is not what this is about. What this is about to me is the people who love this industry, like myself and Shannon and Eric and so many people that we've met. I mean, goodness, Shannon, you've met more people than me. But I've met enough people over the last few years to know that we are in a very, very strong industry. We're in an industry that has an immense amount of talent. And what I want to try to do is I want to try to encourage those who don't know any better. It's really the fact that they haven't been taught, just like you said, the sales training is lacking. It's not just a matter of, I'm not going to tell somebody they don't love what they do. That's not what I'm here to do. What I'm here to do is to tell you that if you're doing it a sort of way, keep doing it, but do it better. Even if you're a number one dealer for your manufacturer and you're buttoned up and all your employees are on salary and you can do whatever you want to do, there's still something you can do better. We try to do better here at Dayton Barns every day. You guys have heard me say it. We have a team in-house. They're on a payroll. We W-2 our guys and gals, and we really strive to give you the same experience from any one of our sales staff. That way it's on point brand wise, it's on point with our manufacturers' expectations. We're not giving customers false expectations and we're not over promising and under delivering. I think that's the biggest thing. So from a dealer to a manufacturer perspective, the 1099 thing's fine. Manufacturers paying 1099s. But I think that the future really is manufacturers going in-house, looking at inside sales teams, looking at potentially partnering with their top dealers to really do revolutionary next level things. Because what we're seeing right now, and I want to get your opinion on this because you're a marketing guy. I mean, you do a lot of your business with the guys over at Shed Geek Marketing. Dylan and his team are doing a fantastic job. Quick shout out to those guys. If you need help with your marketing products, give the guys over there at Shed Geek Marketing a call. I can tell you, it doesn't hurt to make a phone call, and it doesn't cost anything for a consultation. They'll give you some over the top view on what they might be able to do to help you out. And they're doing some pretty revolutionary things in the shed space and steel buildings. What I can tell you, my main question to you, Shannon, is we work with manufacturers all across the United States. I'll keep those for another time. But all the manufacturers that we work with are competing against one another in a space. So let's just use Pepsi and Coke as an example. Pepsi and Coke compete everywhere. You see Pepsi and Coke in every supermarket, grocery store. You see them in every gas station. So if you've got two manufacturers, and let's just say I sell for both those manufacturers, I'm spending money on marketing. They're spending money on marketing. What we end up doing is competing with each other, driving our CPRs up, cost per results for those of you who are new to the business or need lingo. Cost per result is how much it costs you to secure a raw lead. So for us, a raw lead is, can I get a building quote? Am I in your service area? I'm interested in a building, that kind of a thing. What we do on our end is we have in-house lead generation. You're going to contact and talk to somebody on our team in-house. They're going to take the lead in real time. Can I get a building quote? Absolutely. We're here to help you. Just need your size and zip code. And we go from there. We qualify the lead and it goes to one of our project managers. But what I've been trying to convince manufacturers and dealers alike to do is work together on marketing.
Introducing Shed Hub, your ultimate shed marketplace. Are you in the shed business and looking to connect with more buyers? Look no farther than Shed Hub. Shed Hub is a game-changing, two-sided marketplace that brings shed sellers and buyers together in one easy-to-use platform. Think of it as the Amazon of sheds. Shed Hub isn't just any ordinary marketplace. It's a powerhouse that ranks on the first page of Google's search results in 91% of U.S. cities. With over 1.2 million impressions on our website last month alone, Shed Hub is where you want to be to showcase your sheds to a wider audience. And here's the best part. For a limited time, you can join our exclusive Next 500 plan for just $39 per month. Simply head over to geek.shedhub.com to sign up and start attracting more shoppers to your shed listings. As the Shed Geek, I am here to endorse Shed Hub and invite you to join me on this journey to boost your shed business. Whether you're struggling with website visibility or simply want more eyes on your product, Shed Hub has got you covered. Don't miss out on this opportunity to supercharge your shed sales. Visit geek.shedhub.com today and make your mark in the shed industry with Shed Hub.
Have the manufacturer house leads, send the leads out to their dealers, or work exclusively with a sales team, because we are competing against each other in a space that is costing us thousands of dollars a month. Shannon, is that the way you see it? Because it's the way I see it. I witness it every day. My ads manager goes crazy. And, I'm trying to get cost per result down, trying to give customers a streamlined process.
Yeah. I mean, it's so many things to unpack there. But I would say, yes, from a marketing perspective, it's kind of pay to play. We've had a couple of people ask us, you're working with someone over here. What do you do with us? What's your dedication level to us? And it's like, well, if your ad budget's $15,000 a month, like a company we spoke with yesterday, versus $1,000 a month, well, you're probably going to have 15 times more visibility versus the $1,000 a month guy. It's not a reflection of our marketing or any marketing that you're using, whether it's us or someone else. You're just going to have more visibility whenever you have the functionality to get in front of people more. Ad copy, all those things matter, but in reality, from a Google and Meta perspective, if you're paying to get in front of that many people, you're going to consume a certain like amount of leads. So yes, it all ties into the 1099 thing, because even whenever we think about the 1,000 dealer network, and each one of those dealers are branding something different. We're Jared Steel Sheds, we're Shannon Steel Sheds. I say this all the time, but putting on my a consultation hat, if I were giving you advice as a 1099 steel manufacturer, I would say maintain your brand in case you want to have a different vendor. But if you just switch vendors every time somebody gives you a more percent on a sale, you're going to run through, and you're probably going to get a bad name for yourself after a while, and people aren't going to want to bring you free stuff, but for you to sell. But even if you do, see, with sheds, it's different because they're prefab and you can wholesale purchase. And then you own those, and you can do what you want. You can have your own rent to own, you can have your own marketing, you can have your own, whatever, you own them. If I go buy 10, mailboxes, and I want to sell the mailboxes the way I want to sell them. I don't have to be beholden to the company in that respect. But in some ways you are, because they're giving you free inventory on a consignment model. So it's like, are you really independent as 1099? You're not quite W-2. So where's the trade-off here? You make for a good billboard advertiser, but like, where's the commitment to the back end? Is there a co-op program? Is there how do you sell more? At the end of the day, you can take all the fluff out, because you can start discussing, cost per lead, per conversion, SEO, CRMs, URLs, POS, every acronym you can think of on earth. And like the guy we talked about today said, hey, I don't know what SEO is, but I love to build sheds, and I want to build more sheds. But I'm not a sales guy. And I need help on that. And that's why the dealer network, that's why people go and they find the dealer network. But what's happening is we're in this unusual place in history where the .com boom happened in the 90s, and we're 25 years, 35 years later, and we're starting to realize things like just having a website doesn't matter anymore. Because really, if you have a website, it only matters if people find it.
Yeah.
There's so many people competing for that. And that's what SEO is, right? Like, you're looking to index on Google. And so like, people call us and they say, I need a website. I'm finally ready to do it, right? I'm 25 years late, but I'm finally ready to do it. And I'm just going to walk in. I'm going to give you the least amount of money, and I'm going to show up on top, right? Like, oh, you're not going to pass the 25 years of experience that people have been doing, so like, I'm glad you're here at the party, but I can't catch you up all at one time. So like, we go through this education process with people every time we talk to them. It's like, well, do you want a new website? They're like, yes. So then you almost have to ask the question, do you want that website to be seen? And they're almost offended by that question, because it's like, duh, why else would I want a website? And you're like, okay, well, we need to discuss that. Just having a website, having it seen are two different things. It exists if you tell people go here, but are they finding it in keyword search? Is it showing up in, so there's an educational side even to that I admire. So I love pursuing those avenues. But if you've got someone coming out knocking on your door, they're saying, hey, look, we would like to set up a couple of display locks.
Yeah.
And we'd like for you to sell. I would like to think that if you're going to say, yes, I will sell those, that you're going to have some level of dedication to actually making that happen. They're not just going to sit there for 3 years and you're not going to sell any buildings and you're going to move on. Thinking about my experience, and we kind of talked about this off air, thinking about this experience, I remember becoming the state of Illinois, one of this company's first. We were the very first dealer location in Illinois. And this is a good company. I really like the company. I mean, I still think they're a good company. And surprise, surprise, they're involved in sheds too, because it's kind of sometimes hard to maintain the autonomy between different companies. But I remember one situation specifically where we sold a big steel building, the biggest steel building we ever sold to a farmer. The guy passed away the next day. And it was like, this is terrible. We took down the percentage. We went out there. We found out from his son. We went out there. We said, look, we're sorry. It was awesome meeting your dad. We'll just refund the money, cancel the order. We appreciate you giving us a chance. He said, no, wait a minute. This is my dad's last dying wish is to buy this. And if this goes well, we need like 5 or 6 more. And we were like, okay, well, we'll keep it going, and we call the company. We tell them, treat this with sensitivity. And we're wondering, is that just in one ear and out the other? Because I'm not sure. Because all of a sudden, they showed up to build it, and they forgot half the metal for the building. And then they got told, well, we're going to put you back on rotation because it's going to be 6 weeks before we can get back out here. So how do you think that situation went? And you have no control over this as a third party, but you get all the negative reviews. You get all the negative Facebook reviews. You get all the negative Google reviews. You get all the nasty phone calls. And for some, the mentality is, if you don't like that, don't be a dealer of steel buildings, which is what we did. Ultimately, we just decided, after moving into the top 10 place the first year as one of their top 10 sellers and winning an award within the first year, we decided, well, then we're not going to sell that anymore until we can get some consistency. And I'm not encouraging people to do that. I'm saying this was my story. I'm telling that, my experience. Ultimately, I feel like that company's rebounded pretty well. They do pretty good. I hear nothing but good things about them. But I think about how relatable my story is and my sales experience with so many other companies. And the question is why is no one taking the bull by the horns in that particular situation and saying, we're going to offer extreme customer service. We're going to make raving fans. We're not going to let someone down when something like that happens. We're not going to forget half of the metal of the building we drove 3 hours to install. Where does the communication get so far off? Is it this anticipation to grow and beat the rest? Because that's not the key to success for long-term, is it? To win now, it's to win always. So, I'm probably lost on where the question started in the origin, but I got to think about my experience.
No, I think
that was just one thing that specifically stuck out to me that I was like, that was 8-10 years ago. I'm still hearing these stories today.
Yeah.
In 2025. And I'm like, I'm struggling to understand who's going to own that space.
Yeah. And I can tell you, we've gotten a lot of feedback. I mean, we probably get, by a lot, I mean, probably 2 or 3 emails I've been getting a week from different shed guys and gals. And what I'll tell you is your story is not uncommon. Your story is pretty much on point. I mean, I get it all the time from shed guys that I know, how have you made this metal building thing work for so long? And, we see guys come and go, but you've been pretty consistent with it. And, a lot of it comes down to what we've talked about already is keeping up with exactly what you said. Pick a horse and stick with it. Build your relationships out. I mean, I can tell you the manufacturers we work with, we know their install crews. We know what to do and what not to do. We know that there's manufacturers all over the place, and we're happy to work with a lot of them. Some of them a little bit more than others. But the fact of the matter is that the ones that we know do certain things well, those are the ones who get those specific type of buildings. If we know that one company tends to do vertical sheeting a little bit better than another company and has pretty quick lead times in the area, I can tell you the one thing that I learned from my buddy Lee, and I'm going to give Lee a shout out over at Direct Metal Structures, I think is where he's at now. So cheap plug for those guys. Lee has been an absolute legend to me in this industry and been a very good advocate and friend when he didn't have to be, quite honestly. He's been on the manufacturing side, the dealer side. He's kind of all over the place. But he told me one time, he said, Jared, don't care about commission rates, care about where the building's coming from and where it's going. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, well, if you got a building you're selling in Indianapolis, Indiana, and you got a manufacturer in Indiana, don't sell them the building that's coming from Mount Airy, North Carolina. Sell them the building that's coming from Indiana. And ever since we've done that, and that's pretty much our golden rule here is if we have a manufacturer we trust within 3 hours, that's the building they're getting. And if they don't like it, they can buy from somebody else.
Hey guys, this is Jared with the Steel Kings podcast. Today's episode is part 1 of a 2-part episode. Be sure to listen next week for part 2.
Before you go, the J Money team wants to thank you for listening to today's Steel Kings podcast. Remember, money is king. If you need a financing option on your portable wood sheds or steel buildings, we are here to help. Just check out jmoneyllc.com for more information. Don't forget to catch the next episode. We'll still be here. Have a great day.